Hey guys, what is up? It is No Help and welcome back to another video today. If you guys like the video, make sure to smash the like button. I have a very exciting video today. Today I'm going to be rating every single skill on Old School Runescape out of a 1 out of 10 rating. If you guys feel any differently, feel free to comment your thoughts and opinions. I'm going to be going over how useful they are in the game, how fun they are to train, stuff like that, and how long they take and stuff like that overall. I'm just going to give them a rating based on that. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoy. Right, so we're just going to start the list from the start. So attack, overall very useful skill, especially if you're getting into PvM late game stuff like that. You need, a maximum of like 75 to pretty much hold every single item in the game. So you don't need to get it too high, but the higher obviously helps for, accuracy on hitting. Overall, highly would recommend you get this skill as high as possible. And overall for training the skill, it's pretty enjoyable, especially if you're going to do something like Slayer or bossing. And it can be pretty slow, but you can train it with Slayer like I said, or if you want to train it fast, you can do something like the Nightmare Zone. Overall attack, I'm going to give a 9 out of 10. Very useful skill, and overall it's kind of a little bit slow but very useful, so that's why it has such a high rating. And we're going to jump into strength. Strength as well, I'm going to also give it a 9 out of 10. Very useful skill overall, same pretty much as attack. Let's go ahead and look at the thing here. So you're going to need the same thing, a maximum of 75 to do every single thing in the game. But overall, the higher the better. Obviously, the higher strength, the higher you're going to hit on task. For defense though, however, I'm also, this one isn't as important. I guess you need level 80 to wear every single thing in the game, but it isn't as important to fully train the skill. I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10. Still a very useful skill overall in the game, especially if you're going to be into PvM and combat and stuff like that. But I would highly recommend you do attack or strength first, but still overall a useful skill in the same amount of time as like attack strength to train. Alright, I'm going to go ahead with range and say range is a full 10 out of 10 skill. There is so many uses with range, like most of the things you can attack with melee, you can also attack with range, but there is a lot of things in the game that you can only use range to attack. And range has just overall been so powerful in all of Old School RuneScape. We've got things like the Twisted Bow, we have the Toxic Blowpipe. Range is overall a very useful skill in the game, and you can do a lot of damage with range, and you can train it with attack. You can also with attack, sorry, you can train it with Slayer, you know what I mean, through your Slayer grind, stuff like that. You can kill certain bosses with only range, like what's that called, Hydra, Zalra, stuff like that. Overall range, very useful skill, and you can also train range really fast if you do like chinning. So yeah, full 10 out of 10 for me. Alright, I'm gonna go with prayer next. Prayer is a 9 out of 10 skill for me. Very expensive skill to train, but very useful overall. You only really need to get prayer to a certain level to make it super useful. To unlock every single prayer in the game, you're only going to need 77, and you also need to buy these prayers, which can cost money. And overall, the skill itself is just not fun to train. That's why I'm giving it a 9 out of 10, or it would be a 10 out of 10, but 9 out of 10 just because it's not fun to train at all. At least with all the combat skills, it's super enjoyable, super fun to train, but prayer is kind of just spending money, you know what I mean? Literally burying money, putting bones in altars. You could use the new spells and stuff like that, but overall it's not a very enjoyable skill to train, but it is super useful to get up, so that's why it is a 9 out of 10 for me. Magic, 100% a 10 out of 10 skill. Magic, there is literally a million different ways you can train magic. It is super useful as well, especially for, certain things with combat and stuff like that. It's also a lot more fun than, training the traditional melee kind of stuff like that. Magic's super useful, has teleport spells, has tons of these different spells. There's 4 spell books in the game. Different spells you can do. You can use it in combat, you can use it to get around the game. Overall, it's It's kind of expensive to train, but at the same time, it doesn't have to be. You can do things like elking, and there's just so many different ways that you can train magic as a skill that 100% a 10 out of 10 skill. All right, we have runecrafting. I love runecrafting myself, but I'm personally going to give runecrafting a 6 out of 10. It's not the most entertaining skill in the game at all. It's really, really not. It can be very useful. It would be lower, but honestly, for Ironman accounts, that's the only reason I'm even giving it a 6. It can be very useful because you can craft your own runes, but overall, it is not a fun skill to train. It just is such a slow skill to train as well. There's so many different complications with runecrafting. You're going to need train agility with runecrafting. You're going to need a lot of other requirements to train runecrafting, and it's super slow. Not AFK until you get 77 at all, but if you can get 99, then you're a true legend. Coming in with construction as well, I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10. There is a few different ways of training this skill now. You have this stuff like the mahogany homes, but overall, just the regular in your house building, super boring, not entertaining at all, unless you do something like the mahogany homes, of course. The only reason that I'm giving this a 7 out of 10 is because the skill keep is amazing. It is one of the most useful skill keeps in the game, and also your house is also like one of the most useful things in the entire game. So with getting your house upgrades and stuff like that, that's the only reason I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. Other than that, such a boring skill, so slow, and not really slow, it's kind of fast, it's just very click intensive, but it's going to cost you a ton of money that you're going to have to sink into this skill, and it's just not really fun to train. But you know, super useful if you do get 99 or even like 83 and max your house out. HP, like HP is like one of those skills where you kind of just passively train. I guess it's very useful. I'm not even really going to rate this one because it keeps you alive, so I guess a 10 out of 10. But you train it with combat, so I'm not even going to rate this one. Agility, everyone's fucking worst skill. I mean, some people probably with runecrafting, but agility, it is very useful. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 because it is a super useful skill to get around the game. It's amazing to get your graceful out of the way. It unlocks so many shortcuts around the game. You gotta remember there's so many shortcuts around the game that use agility. And then we also have the sepulcher to train agility, so it can be a little bit more fun. But other than that, just running around consistently over and over again, not the most exciting skill in the game, and it's also one of the slowest skills to train in the entire game. If it didn't have any of the unlocks or the graceful, it would definitely be a lot lower of a mark for me, but I'm going to be giving it a 7 out of 10. Alright, coming in with Herblore. Herblore is actually a very useful skill. You need it to make the potions in the game, so I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Honestly, the actual training aspect of Herblore is pretty easy, pretty enjoyable, honestly. It's a fast-paced skill. Can be very expensive, but at the same time very useful. You need to use a ton of herbs, but you can actually just gather these herbs with farming, and a lot of the secondaries you can get with farming as well, and the other ones you get through Slayer drops and stuff like that. But overall, the skill itself, very fast to train, very expensive though, but at the same time we need it for potions, so that's why it's getting such a high grading from me. Alright, we're gonna go with Thieving next. Thieving it can be very useful. It brings a lot of gold and stuff like that into the game, and we need it for a couple of things like the Pharaoh's Scepter and stuff like that. But overall, it's not too much of an enjoyable skill to train. It's kind of repetitive, but at the same time, it can also be very frustrating when you almost die from not pickpocketing people enough. I think at the lower levels, it's very annoying, but once you get into the higher levels, if you do like Pyramid Plunder, it can be not too bad. But overall, all it does is really bring money, seeds, stuff like that into the game. It's not super useful. I'm going to go ahead and give Thieving a 6 out of 10. Crafting, I'm going to go ahead right now and say it's an 8 out of 10. Honestly, it's a very annoying skill to train. It can be very expensive if you do something like leathers. If you do something like molten glass, it can still be kind of fast and a lot cheaper. Crafting is very useful for making a bunch of the armors and stuff like that in the game. Bowstrings as well, very useful with the crafting skill. And overall, it's just you make so many things with crafting, and especially getting into the crafting guild with the 99 cape. Yeah, crafting's a definitely 8 out of 10 for me. It's not the most enjoyable skill, obviously, to train, but It's fast, and that's why it has an 8 out of 10. Alright, talk about the fastest skill in the game. Fletching can be the fastest skill in the game and can be pretty slow as well. Fletching doesn't have too many uses, but it also has a lot of uses. If you're an Ironman account, you can make a lot of money with fletching as an Ironman account, bringing raw GP into the game. And that's pretty much how the economy started, is with fletching and alching all the bows and stuff like that. So, you know, it's really good for making money overall, but as for how fun and stuff it is, really not the most fun skill in the game, but you can make a lot of money. It's kind of super AFK, or if you want to spend a shit ton of money, you can get it done in like 13 hours, so 8 out of 10. Alright, I might be a little bit biased here, but Slayer, 10 out of 10 skill for me. You can AFK Slayer, you can do boss tasks, you can just have overall a lot of fun with Slayer, learn so much about the game, learn different PvM styles, train tons of skills at the same time, and make a lot of money or spend a lot of money. Slayer is just kind of a jack of all trades. You can do anything you want with Slayer. There's so many unlocks with Slayer. You learn so much, like I was just talking about, and overall it's just such a fun skill. It is very, very slow though, a very slow skill. Gotta be one of the slowest skills in the entire game. But whenever I'm training Slayer, I don't even feel like I'm training Slayer. That's how much fun it is. I kind of just feel like, you know, I'm going to kill this boss, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to make money. Slayer, solid 10 out of 10. Hunter, I'm going to give a 6 out of 10. Not the most entertaining skill in the game, very, very click intensive, and at the lower levels can be very slow. The only reason I'm even giving it a 6 out of 10 is because we have stuff like birdhouse runs and herbivores. Other than that, just catching the regular chinchompas, doing the birds, all that stuff, just very frustrating. I would say even more frustrating than thieving, and it's just, it's not the fastest skill in the game. It can be pretty fast, but if it wasn't for birdhouse runs, man, like I don't even know where I would be at Hunter. But you know, it's just really frustrating skill. It's not the fastest in the game, but you can make a decent amount of money from it. But you can also, you know, get really angry with black chinchompas getting PK'd, or, you know, even just your box traps not working. Yeah, it's not a fun skill. 6 out of 10. Alright, we're going to go with mining. I'm going to give mining a nice 7 out of 10. There's a ton of different ways that you can actually train mining, and it can be a good one to AFK for sure. You can make a lot of money with the with mining, or you can, you know, do mining really sweaty at like sandstone, granite, stuff like that. It's not the most entertaining skill in the game. It's very, very slow. It's got to be one of the slowest skills in the entire game, but since there are a ton of good AFK methods like amethyst, motherlode mining, and stuff like that, it can be good to do when you're doing like schoolwork or at your job or something like that. Mining I just don't hate. That's why I'm giving it a nice 7 out of 10 overall. As for smithing, smithing is a skill that you can either make a ton of money from, or you can lose a lot of money from. Overall, both ways are still really fast. Smithing is just very easy, very click intensive. It's not the most entertaining skill in the world, doesn't have the most uses in the world, but it is fast, and overall you can kind of do it with mining if you're like an Ironman account and stuff like that. I'm also going to give it a nice 7 out of 10 because you can AFK it a lot, do like some darts, stuff like that. You can pay, there's just a lot to do with smithing. There's so many different things you can do. Blast furnace, you can AFK it, stuff like that. Overall, it's not the worst skill in the game, and even if you're like doing the blast furnace sweaty, it's still not as bad as doing something like Hunter, Agility, Runecrafting. So overall, 7 out of 10 for smithing. As for fishing, this would have been different a while ago, but since they've added the new fishing boss, Temperus, it's got a lot more entertaining. There's a lot of different things you can do with fishing as well. You know, you can fish sharks and AFK your heart out. You can, you know, do 3-tick barbarian fishing, or you can, you know, kill a boss now for fishing experience and be in a group of people and have a lot of fun doing fishing. It is a very, very slow skill, but depending on how you train fishing, you can make a lot of money from it and have a lot of fun doing something like Temperus, or you know what I mean? There's just so many different variables with fishing, so I'm also going to give it a nice, you know, 7 out of 10. Definitely not the worst skill in the game, but definitely not the best either. Alright, cooking. I'm going to give cooking a nice 8 out of 10 skill. The only reason is it's so fast and you make so much money from it. You can make a ton of money from cooking karambwans. You can also get up to 1,000,000 experience an hour doing karambwans, and it's pretty much everyone's first 99 skill. Not the most entertaining skill in the game by any means, but you can also do it while you're like AFKing school, stuff like that. And it's just so fast, and I feel like a lot of people do it. And it has a useful skill keep too. You won't burn food ever again, so it's just profitable, you know what I mean? And it's so nostalgic and stuff like that. So I'm gonna give cooking a solid 8 out of 10 for me. Right, for firemaking, I can't even really rate this one. Before Wintertod, it would have been like a 2 out of 10 for me. It was pretty much useless before Wintertod. Wintertod is kind of enjoyable. You can have fun with Wintertod, just like Temperus, but at the same time, you know, like you make a lot of money from it. Other than that, the skill itself is not very useful. I mean, you need it for a couple quests, stuff like that. I'm honestly gonna give firemaking a 6 out of 10. And if it wasn't for Temperus, it would be like a 2 out of 10. It's just is literally burning money. And if you do Temperus, it can, or not Temperus, if you do Wintertod, it can be kind of enjoyable. You can make a little bit of money from. It's also a lot of people's first 99 skill. But at the same time, not very useful. I mean, at the start of Ironman, maybe not very useful skill overall. And it is fast, but there's also a lot faster skills in the game, and it's just, I don't know, Temperance to me is a lot better than Wintertod. 6 out of 10. Alright, time for another very, very AFK skill, woodcutting. Woodcutting I'm also going to give a 7 out of 10 because there's just so many different variables of training the skill. If you want to do like two or three tick teak logs, you want to AFK willows, you know what I mean, you want to AFK redwoods, magic skews, you can make a lot of money with woodcut. I wouldn't say a lot of money, you can make some money with woodcutting. You can AFK it, or you know, you can go sweaty. It's also a skill that takes you forever to get to 99. I wish there was a lot more options to train it. If we had stuff like sawmill training or ivy, I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10, but for me it's a 7 out of 10. It's a really good skill as well to do while doing homework and stuff like that. It's a very long skill to get all the way to 99 for sure, but it's kind of a rewarding skill at the same time. It's just another very classic nostalgic skill, and yeah, I'm going to give this a solid 7 out of 10. Alright, and for the last skill, farming, 100% for me as well, a 10 out of 10 skill. Love farming, one of the best skills in the entire game. Once you get into it, I just recently made a farming guide for Ironman. If you want, I will leave a link in the description for that. But once you get into farming, it is such a fun skill. There's so many different patches in the game, and it doesn't feel like you're ever really grinding farming because, you know, you plant it and then you come back. It's not like you're sitting there super hyper focused on farming. I mean, unless you're doing like the tithe farm, then I wouldn't give this a 10 out of 10 if you were just only doing the tithe farm. But as for planting, you can make a lot of money with the herbs with it, or even with fruit trees, you can make a lot of money. And other than that, it's just a very fast skill. You know, you plant all your crops in maybe 30 minutes or so, and then you come back the next day and you get a 200-300k XP drop. It's awesome. You can do herb runs every 75 minutes, make a lot of money. There's just a lot of strategic ways of training farming, and overall just getting a lot of bulk experience at the same time. And it's also super useful, brings so many good things into the game, like herbs for herblore, you know what I mean? And it's just overall such a great skill and such a fun skill at the same time. But yeah, anyways, I really hope you guys enjoyed the video today. If you guys feel differently about any of the skills that I've ranked, let me know down in the comments. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts and opinions on this, and who knows, maybe in the future they will change. But this is pretty much a for how useful they are and stuff like that, and kind of how slow they are. I can go over like skill capes for sure, skill cape perks and stuff like that would be totally different. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching the video today, and I will catch you in the next one. See ya later.